We need to find a way to get in good trouble, necessary trouble, if we're going to save America.
This is Paige. Welcome to the Necessary Trouble Show. Here's your host, my dad, Russell Fugett.
Welcome back to the Necessary Trouble Show. Here, I am your guest host for today's 25th episode. I'm Krystal Warner. I'm one of the producers for the Necessary Trouble Show. I'm joined by today's guest, Russell Fugett. Russell,
Thanks for having me today.
How does it feel to be in the hot seat?
It feels good, and I want to say thank you for doing this, and thank you for being such an important part of this vision going back to the summer. And I'm just grateful that you shared the vision all the way up to today. And this was your idea, or I don't know how we came to it, but we've been really good at having these conversations where I don't know who said it first, but when we suggested that you should be doing this interview today, and for you to have this moment for yourself as we look forward to what is to come with Necessary Trouble Show.
Can you believe that we have recorded 24 episodes or now the 25th episode in just 90 days?
I think we did 20, and we did like the election special too, which I don't even know if we counted. So it actually may be
we did not count it.
Yeah, so the election preview, which I kind of got like 60%, 70% kind of right. So which is cool. My political science degree paying off. But it's to think about that the first episode debuted on September 17th, and here we are, this final episode on December 17th. In the symmetry, I like those numbers, those 3 months and almost 90 days roughly. It's really amazing that we've been able to do it and be consistent. We took Thursday, Thanksgiving off, but besides that, every Monday and Thursday, we've been able to publish an episode, and hats off to you and to Mike Artsis and his team and for being able to keep doing that. There's obviously been bumps in the road for all of us, but we've been able to be consistent, and I'm just so proud of that and humbled to have such a great team believe in this and be able to help put this together. I think it's been excellent.
This episode is our recap of season 1. So just to begin, what would you say are some of your favorite moments or favorite episodes or favorite topics? If you could think of any, maybe like give us your top 5.
Of course, it's going to be hard to put them in order, and it's going to be hard to limit it to 5. I think, early on, I think some of the episodes that jump out to me is when I talked to my friend Lyndon Pryor down with the Urban League in Louisville, Kentucky, right on the cusp of some protest activity, and then the announcement of the lack of charges that were brought against the police, and then also the settlement that week, I think back in early October, late September. Having his voice and having the episode come out right around that time, I thought was very powerful. And then, of course, having Malcolm Ruff talk about the settlement we had here in Prince George's County, Maryland, and some of the work he's doing in Baltimore around police reform. I thought, those were really powerful moments because of the timing and the ability to have folks like that come on. I give hats off to you for reaching out to Gwen Berry, our Olympic hammer thrower. And of course, we heard the news last week, and I saw you put it on Instagram, and I was so excited that Rule 50 has been changed. And of course, she was punished under Rule 50 because she chose to protest for Black Lives at the Pan American Games. And now, she was suspended for a year, but luckily the Olympics have gotten pushed. Luckily for her, the Olympics have been pushed back, and she's going to compete. And that Rule 50 is no longer, and that Olympic athletes have a voice. And that was really such an important part of the initial impetus for starting this program was, of course, we were going to focus on sports. And then I realized we needed to broaden the tent and the scope. But for her to be on this show to talk about that, and then to have the moment now that's come from it where the Olympic Committee has changed that rule, I would certainly have to put that up there. Of course, my election journal, being in Philadelphia on election day, that was a special thing for me to know. And my wife really had to encourage me, quite frankly, to do it because I didn't know if it was going to be violence. Should I be home with my family? To protect if something crazy happens, should I go? And I really felt that I should. And I'm glad I did. And I was able to capture it and share it with everybody to be a peaceful, nonpartisan poll watcher in my role as chaplain of the John Eager Howard chapter in Baltimore, Maryland, of the Sons of the American Revolution. To be able to put that hat on that day and be there was really special. So that episode jumps out to me as well. And then really, I think I have to, if I had to pick five, it'd be hard, but I think just generally, I have to give hats off to the young Gen Z and young millennial folks we've had. Your voice, your moment. I hope I'm still saying that right. I mean, Jevin Hodge, Kyle Boyer, of course, Rick Hart, who's been our guest twice, and Hannah Hawthorne, my sister here in Crofton, Maryland. And I mean, those that's the voices I want to uplift. And the young folks who people are going to hear about. If they haven't already, they're going to hear about them soon. And I hope when people go Google them one day, this episode we shot, years from now will pop up. And so having all of those voices, and then of course I got to add my family, my dad, my Gene Fugett, my cousin, my brother-in-law Adam Jones.
My sister.
So it's So your sister, right? So it's been a family affair too, right? Your sister, and I mean, and then of course the most recent episode with Ndidi and the Mother Lab is so powerful.
Right.
And I can't forget. I got a lot of response and feedback from Ashley Gaddy from Cook Ross and what she dropped about inclusion and diversity. I got a lot of feedback directly about, who's that sister? So, and I know I'm leaving like the other 10 episodes out, but those are I think the highlights that come top of mind from me. It is hard. It's hard to pick.
I just feel like the show was so like timely, and every time we talk about it, I never want to say the word, but it's necessary during like all the things that we've been going on, that we've been dealing with this year in 2020. I feel like creating this platform for voices that may not necessarily have the platform to speak out. It's been super cool to watch unfold. But segueing into that, what would you say have been some roses and thorns with the process of creating this show this season? During COVID, during racial injustices, during a super important election year, what would you say are some maybe like peaks and tips?
I like to end on a high note, so I'll probably start with the some of the thorns, and part of it's somewhat personal, and just feeling like, beginning to ideate around this show back in the summertime, and then doing it, and as things played out the second half of this year, I wanted to do something, and I participated in one protest, and been very much aggressive about connecting, and have been plugged in more with some service opportunities both in DC and Baltimore to work with youth in particular, which is something I've always done. But thinking, was this enough in this moment, right? What was it enough? Could I do more? And trying to not look at the views and the traction on social media or on YouTube, and not having it be, what you want, what you hope organically, but not letting that discourage me or discourage us from forging ahead and having these important conversations, and kind of realizing it's going to be a capsule in time, if nothing else, and knowing that there's more work to do to build out our team and to build out our resources as we look to go forward, that really allow us to drive the messaging, on the internet, and perhaps get it on a bigger platform where there can be more engagement, because I think these conversations were very important. So of course, in our near network, I know we got great feedback, and that propelled us, but really wanted to figure out how to break beyond that bubble and be discovered more broadly. Was part of a little bit of the thorn in terms of this, hoping that you might have a viral hit, but realizing the kind of conversations we're having really didn't lend themselves to that, right? They're not salacious, right? It's really, I think we have guests who are intelligent and thoughtful, but there's a lot of conversation, a lot of noise in this 2020. So hopefully we'll find a way going forward as to how we might be able to break through and continue to push forward unique perspectives and unique voices here on Necessary Trouble.
I think that was another thing that also, like, as a producer, being like, we live in this social media world where going viral and like being an influencer, all that is like trumps all. And then being like, oh my gosh, we're not getting the views that you want to see. But, we would always talk with like Brandon And he would just be like, don't focus on that. Just keep on, like,
Keep going.
keep pushing and keep on producing what you're producing, because your content is impactful and powerful.
I think the other, Thorn is just, thinking about where do you, where do you take it? Having ambition. How do you elevate the platform? So I almost feel like we've built something special. So a little bit of the Thorn is a little bit of feeling the responsibility of it. And there were times, I know I shared this, I think with both with you, Krystal, and Mike, as well, in terms of I'm literally sending emails, and I really dropped off, set my camera up, and hopped in front of the screen, and then done the interview, but not really feeling like I might have done the interview as good of a service as I should. And so, wanting to take it to the next level, and have that kind of responsibility and accountability. I mean, those aren't serious storms, but I think it's just when it takes a life of itself, and wanting it to be
Right.
something even bigger than what it is, and feeling that burden in this moment, in this time, that if I can do it, we should do it, right? So that's been grappling with that. I think has been a little bit of a thorn, because of course you get those questions. Well, what are you doing? Are you making money with it? What's the plan? And you don't have those answers,
Right.
But I think the roses is the opposite of that, is the fact that we can dream into it. That we have been successful over 25 episodes in securing guests. A lot of people, of course, that I know. A lot of people, I think it's been about 50-50 people I really, or 60-40 certainly. I think people I didn't know. I know a few folks you knew that I didn't know. Like your sister, like Jevin Hodge, like Gwen Barrett, like she just responded to you. I mean, it was a few weeks after she was in the New York Times and Washington Post, and she wanted to be on our show, and I was like, really? Like, she already been in the Washington Post,
right, and how
she
responsive she was,
which was so cool of her, right? So and Cameron Parker also, I think of him and the work he's done, having been talking about what his time was at ESPN and now how he's pivoted. So I think some of the roses have been that, for people's gratitude for being a part of it, people's willingness to be a part of it, and people's feedback about you're doing something special that's on the right track. And so how do I, grappling with the roses and the thorns? I think that's a good analogy to use, Krystal. I have to give you credit, because the rose truly is like, wow, this is a beautiful thing. How do we move it forward? The thorns is feeling that responsibility, and wondering if you really can do it. And that's part of personal to me, is my entrepreneurial journey is kind of reflected that. So yeah, so the rose, part of the great analogy, the rose and the thorn, is that's the great part. Is the rose is what you're building and people's response to it, but also the thorns is, can you get it to where you think it can be to really have a tremendous impact. And of course, the last thorn that I have to mention in this case, which we're all going to laugh behind the scenes, is technical difficulties is certainly a thorn. And I know that we've made Mike, our dear producer, have to work to edit because of my flubs, and also Wi-Fi, kids at home here homeschooling, Krystal, you being out of the country, like. So it's actually been amazing how smoothly things have gone. And Mike, thank you for making us look good and keeping us on track as the technology cooperates, the internet cooperates with us being in different locations.
A true hero.
Indeed, a technical wizard, unlike me.
Right.
He couldn't even make me use my EarPod Pro. We took him like 21 episodes before I finally opened up the box, because I'm so cheap. I'm like, I like the ones I have, work just fine. That's just how I am. I don't want to throw things away. I don't need to replace it. It works good. Yeah, like the noise canceling kicked in one day on these things. I was on another call and I realized I was like, oh wow, these are pretty smooth. Okay. Anyway, I paid for them and set them on my desk for 2 months before I use them. So I'm stubborn.
I think we, like you said, have been doing a really good job, though, especially during COVID. When I was thinking of what questions to ask you, even, I was just like, dang, I wish that I'm a very interpersonal person. And so I just always wish that we could be in the studio with Mike and,
right.
have some guests and actually physically meet them. I think these platforms have been great, right? And we're making it work. But, I always miss that part of it. But so speaking of that, what do you see, or what do you think the future is for the Necessary Trouble show? Like, I know that we've been talking, and you've had a couple of days or a few days to kind of reflect and look back on season 1. But what do you envision the future of the show like being? Where would you like to take it? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit.
I'll take that in 2 parts, and they work together. One is the content part. One is maybe more the business part. From a content perspective, I'll pick up where you started, which is I want to get out of my basement. It's great. I have a nice background here. Obviously, you can see what's behind the camera. Or if I'm wearing khaki pants or sweatpants, depending on which day, if I'm wearing shoes or flip flops, depending on which day you got me, and I've been blessed to have been in the studio and been on camera and know what that looks and feels like. So I do think about perhaps certainly being able to go interview folks in their environment. Imagine going to Gwen Berry when she's practicing on the track and getting footage of her on the track, practicing her hammer throw, and then talking to her in a different setting. So I want to be able to do more features and have you be able part of that as well, to do more features and go actually be able to interview folks. And I'm hoping that in 2021, with the vaccines on the way, we'll be able to perhaps get to that. So I do envision a more comprehensive show. I am in very preliminary talks around how could I get this show sponsored and on the air. We have a round working number of what it would cost to do 41-hour episodes a year and have it somewhere with a sponsor and actually be able to make it something that does generate revenue directly, right? And where we can actually, because of having it on a network where we're in millions of homes and maybe even 100 million or more homes, and some of the relationships we have could potentially yield, that it actually could be a platform that could really move the needle. I still think I haven't quite seen anything like what we've done or what I have in mind to do on the air right now. So the conversation is about how do we shoot a TV quality pilot in the first half of next year, say, is the goal from a content perspective, and kind of round out the platform, and maybe even have other features people. So you look at what Brian Gumbel and HBO do with Real Sports, maybe something like that, where again, Krystal Warner does an interview one week, and then we have other guests who contribute segments. It's kind of been part of the vision. And that's because I want this platform not to be about me, Russell Fugett. I want it to be about making Necessary Trouble. And if you notice, John Lewis may have marched across that bridge, but he didn't march across that bridge by himself, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. If you go to our website, we use that picture. So he may get the credit. Maybe people want to give the credit, but I think in the spirit of John Lewis, he always realized it was about the beloved community, right? So we've formed a little bit of that here with our guests, with our production team. And I want to bring more people on. And that's why I wanted you to do this episode, Krystal, because I wanted to start at home and bring you on and get your feet wet and having this kind of exchange. The business part, and I haven't even talked to you about this yet, Krystal. I've been thinking about, what should Necessary Trouble be? And I've thought a couple thoughts. I thought, should it be a truly a for-profit venture and platform that you kind of expand and spin out? I've also, in the last few days, thought about it, interestingly, as should it be a nonprofit media project? And does that impact how you approach it journalistically? How does that impact how you approach content? Does it impact how you finance the production, right? The idea is to grow a platform. Of course, money helps things and is necessary to put the focus and attention, I think, to truly bring the vision to life that I think we collectively have begun to discuss and have in mind. So how does that look, and how does that feel from a business standpoint in terms of who works with you from a sponsorship or financial partnership relationship? How does the production look going forward? So those things kind of go hand in hand, and those are things I'm still grappling with. But I think in the first half of next year, certainly the goal is to produce a TV quality, pilot, and then really work aggressively to think about how to get it on the air. The challenge for me also is that we've done 25 episodes, but there's at least 5 or 10 more that are top of mind, people we didn't get a chance to talk to for scheduling reasons, or we just purely didn't get to, that are still in our spreadsheet on our list that I want to get to, including I have a good Paul Kendrick, who's been on twice, has an amazing book coming out about Dr. King. And I'm like, man, I want to interview him in January, but I'm still wondering if we should just pause and just focus resources and time and energy on producing the pilot. So again, these are things that we'll continue to grapple with. And so it really is to stay tuned as the answers come in the next, probably 60 days or so about what the future will be. but I'm committed to the project going forward in some fashion. I love the website. I love what Mike has done in terms of getting us on all these podcast platforms. Our social media channels can probably do a little better, but the content's there on Facebook, on YouTube in terms of watching this show, and on the various podcast platforms, which also include video, right? Which is amazing that I didn't know until Mike showed us that we can have the audio version and the video version on Apple and on Podbean and on Spotify. So we're distributed, and so it's just a matter of what does it look like, what's our lane, and how can we really finance it going forward, and to continue to create necessary trouble and bring other voices on, both to interview and as guests, and even who knows what else we'll think of as we go.
Right, and I think the beauty is that you have options. We have options, and like the growth is really like endless. Well,
this was a season to build. I want to end with that. 2020 was a year to build, and it's counterintuitive because we have to be in quarantine and by ourselves, but it's actually, counterintuitive in that it's the perfect time to actually reach out and to build and to expand and to invite others to be a part of. And so that's really what this is about, and that's what will continue to be about for me and for us going forward. And so it's just a matter of what that looks like. But I think we've built and started with an awesome foundation. And again, thank you, Krystal, and thank you, Mike, and to everyone else who's been a part of this production. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for bringing me along on your journey. This has been an amazing ride, and honestly, for 2020 and how many thorns probably everyone in the world can think of, right? And people want to throw 2020 away. I think that this is a dope platform that you have created that we can at least look back on and be like, but something amazing came out of 2020. Yeah. So kudos to you and your vision, and allowing us to take the ride with you.
Well, it's ours now. So it might have started with me, but I hope you own it, and Mike, I hope you own it, and Larry Mack, who produced our music, owns it, and Kelsey Abney, who came with one shot, this logo, and me and Krystal were like, I was like, Krystal, is anything we changed? And Krystal's like, I don't think of anything better than this. And so
I was like, listen, I'm sorry, but I have no feedback for you.
I'm like, and then to get Gwen Berry, and then to have this, be the fist up, from the 68, I think it's the 68 Olympics. And then now I have the rule change to be full circle with this logo around the Olympic spirit and how people have used that platform as athletes, right? Like, and that's with Adam Jones and my father, Gene Fugett, who were on the show, who've used that platform as well. Like, it's all come full circle, and I couldn't have planned it if I tried. So I think to anyone to take encouragement from this, I would say, if you have a vision or idea, go for it, because you just don't know what you're going to do until you go for it and try it, and how you can build something that can have an impact, or at least leave a mark, right? So again, if nothing else, we have 25 episodes that I think people will in the future pull from. I know when Rick Hart's running for president, and Hannah Hawthorne's out here changing the world. Right. I mean, people will, and Devin Hodges, the governor of Arizona. I mean, I hope people will pull these episodes up and say, wow, look at that back in 2020. Right. So again, that's been a big part of this for me, is creating a platform for new voices and new perspectives. And I want to continue to do that.
And so, a lot of our episodes, we focus on the election, right? And we've covered I want to say kind of like half of our content, we focus on the election or whatnot. And so now we have this new president-elect who is about to be sworn in a couple of months. So where do you see, are you hopeful for the future? Do you see, or do you anticipate a pendulum shift? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm always a prisoner of hope, right? And that's who I am, and what my faith in Christ requires of me, right? Is to be a prisoner of hope. But as Dr. Cornel West often says, I'm not optimistic, right? I have hope, but I'm not optimistic about dramatic changes in the fundamental human condition that has got us to this point. And not to get too deep or too professorial, but I think I'm concerned about the level of selfishness that I've seen in our society. I'm concerned about the people who say, don't tread on me, and I don't want to wear a mask, and I don't want my taxes raised, and and me. And we've somehow, in the midst of having more connectivity because of technology, have I think lost the understanding of our civic environment. And that's why I use the word civics in this show. I think it's important that people understand how society works, the social contract, how government can and should work, and how it has failed to work very much in 2020, but how we need it to work at the local, state, and federal level for us to be able to overcome a global pandemic and a national health emergency, and how to have policies and education and provide food and education and housing and opportunities for people to earn living wages. How all those things are important. So I am hopeful that having new leadership in the White House will begin to bring about some of those changes. But as I said previously, I think it's a journey, and I don't know how far we'll get in our lifetime, but we have to continue to push the ball forward. And that's who John Lewis was, and that's who Dr. King was, who's also here over my shoulder. And that's who I believe our former President Obama was about, for all the critiques that I and many others may have of his presidency. But nonetheless, it's about progress. And so I think in this moment, we've had so much we've learned in 2020 about what we still have to deal with and confront as Americans when it comes to race and economic inequality and healthcare inequality and so many other inequalities, that there's work to be done to uplift all of us in this country and in this world. And there's a responsibility for us as Americans, with all the wealth that we have accumulated, to do more and to be more just and to be more equitable. So a lot has changed in the 90 days since we first shot this first episode. But there's, I think we're in position to do more, but we'll see. There's unfortunately folks who are going to be in opposition. And that's probably always been the case and always will be the case, right? So how do we overcome that in love and in peace and in truth, right? So again, I hope this show can be a part of that dialogue and that conversation to help push that forward and to build the true beloved community, which is something I've always been fond of, going back to my high school days and college days as an activist, and hope to use this show as a platform to promote going forward.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing your reflections with all of us. I hope everyone continues to follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, and Instagram and Twitter. Engage with us.
Email if you have ideas, if you have relationships, if you want to help be a part of this. ntshow@goodworddigital.com is the email address. If you want to support the project, you can go to the website and find that donate button. It's not tax deductible, but generosity is welcome and appreciated.
Right.
So this has been produced at cost by Good Word Digital, and so it's been a labor of love. And again, it's a project that I'm committed to bring forward, and I open the floor for other voices and perspectives about how we do move forward and who should be a part of moving forward. It's really I'm trying to build a community and a platform as a vehicle for that community to go forward and share stories and tell stories and perspectives. So again, hit us up on social media, inbox, DMs. You know how to find us. I'm very easy to find too. So at Russell Fugett, anywhere you want to find me. So thank you.
Or you can reach out to me on social media
and
at
Dr.
the Warner Report.
At the Warner Report. You can DM Heffy, her dog. You can follow him. He lives better than all of us.
Well, thanks for joining me as a guest, Russell, and allowing me to take over the host seat for today's episode. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime. Thanks for having me as a guest. We did it. 25 in the can. Thank you. I'm done.
Thanks for watching The Necessary Trouble Show. Please visit necessarytroubleshow.com to support the show and to learn more. Subscribe to our e-newsletter and podcast, and follow us on social media at Necessary Trouble Show.
Good job, Daddy. This is Paige. Thanks for watching.
Necessary trouble. Good trouble. Necessary trouble.
Taking
Okay.
for me or for us? Were we filming something else? Yeah. All right.
Oh, let me also move Hefe. Come over here. I don't know if you noticed it, but my camera was shaking because he decided to come.
As long as
He
it's not an
decided to
earthquake.
come plop right on the table that I have it on, and like is chewing. I gave him a bone and everything to leave me alone, all the way on the other side, and he's like, so now I'm trying to balance it with my foot so that it's like this.
Sounds like fun.
I'm sure he'll just, put it on you.
Just want to get more views and more engagement around what we're doing, but not letting that not letting that be a discouragement. Yeah. Okay.
Wait. Oh.